We're recording.
Great.
All right. Welcome to Friday. Welcome to a rainy Friday. It's raining outside and it's raining in the markets, eh? Crazy week. What a segue.
Have you been practicing that one?
No, not really.
Okay.
No, not really. But it did come up because I was just reading some of the headlines here. Breaking, S&P 500 rises for a third straight day to end a wild week of trading.
Yeah.
Was it a wild week of trading then?
Well, it was because I know we're here on Friday and everyone forgets that Monday was a pretty violent day. The Dow was down about 900 points at one point. Nasdaq was down a couple of percent in the day. So that was on the back of, I can't even remember now. That was on the back of some China news. Evergrande. Yeah, Evergrande. And I think China's done a good job, obviously, of saying, hey, let's everybody forget about what's happening over here and we're going to ban cryptocurrencies today. So Evergrande, which is a big property company, developer in China, they've never made money, but they've never shown a loss on their numbers as well. So that's magic. But so that was the start of the week.
Sounds like Tesla does that too, don't they?
They do with their carbon credits. That's how they profitability.
When do they expire? Isn't it soon? Is it like next year or something? This year, next year?
Carbon credits?
Yeah.
Well, you can continue to buy carbon credits because they trade in the secondary market. Yeah, and there's tons of demand. That's actually a pretty budding part of finance. It's carbon credit sales. Yeah.
There you go. Learn something new every day.
Yeah. You got it.
We digress. Okay. So let's kick her off. I know we have all kinds of material, including another great episode of Ben's charts today. So we'll get that in there. How did it go last week I wasn't here. And
I know.
Seems like the show went on. So I'm kind of offended. B, how did it go?
Show must go on. Joy did great.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Get that star quality, eh?
That's right.
Anyway, fine, fair enough. Okay, so give us some details about what happened in this past 5 days.
Yeah, so we had that kind of the Evergrande news on Monday, which caused a bit of a panic into the markets. I think what I did into that was just to add to existing positions. I think I talked about this last week. If not, it was a week before when I said, I think you should add exposure to stocks, but having a bit of a challenge being the individual names I want to own. So added to the S&P 500, which I did again on Monday. So that was what I did there. Markets obviously recovered. Then we had on Wednesday, we had the elections in Canada, which wasn't really a market event, or was that Tuesday? I think that was Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, we had the FOMC meet, talking about what they're going to do with rates and their taper. And so markets actually rallied off of that for Wednesday, Thursday, and then today it was just kind of a mess more than anything. Markets finished pretty flat, but I think there's a lot to read out of the minutes. It looks like they'll probably start to raise rates, I'd assume, in November. I think the pace of that is somewhere around 10 to 15 billion a month. And so we'll see that impact, but Hedgeye, Keith McCullough has come out with their Q4 report on where things are going, so I can provide some comments on that. And Darius, who I follow as well, has kind of a contrary view. So it's been an interesting week from a research perspective, and lots to pay attention there.
Great. As always, it seems like we have the same group as we always do, but as always, if you have a question, just put it in the Q&A or raise your hand or put it in the chat. That's fine. The other thing too is if you want us to talk about something that we don't talk about, just throw it in there too. Ben will have at it, do his best as he always does.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what else you got? What's next? What's on the agenda?
What else I got on the agenda? Yeah, so the elections I didn't cover on, but if you go back and you watch the weekly, I said I thought I'd be a Liberal minority, so I guess I should be a forecaster for elections in the future. I've
Right.
decided.
Okay. Oh, good. Yeah. You and everyone else was forecasting that.
So if you did read my my daily after, though, I did a pretty snap summary of what I think is going to happen with the Liberals coming in, just talking about higher taxes and where things are going, and the initiatives they plan to unroll. So if you have any questions about the individual initiatives, certainly come back to me at another time. But I did a pretty good summary on what the Liberals plan to do when they continue on with how they are. Couple of trades. So I mentioned the S&P added to small caps and LQD, which is US corporates, and sold some completely out of the extended duration bonds in the US. Sold some Joe, which is coffee, and INFL, which is kind of an inflation basket. So I sold that this week. And the other thing I think we could talk about was today the news is what China is doing with crypto. So that I kind of had next on the agenda. So I think lots of things going on there. Part of it, I think, is they're trying to take the attention off Evergrande, because there's certainly a lot of pain. Their bonds are marked down 70%, so they're going to certainly have to restructure that company. So I think that was part of what they're doing. The other is the likelihood that they roll out their central bank digital currency, or the digital yuan, on the back of this is very high. So they've been testing it, rolling it out, but I'd say they come in with this hard ban, and then they'll probably roll out. You'd see that digital currency soon. But just as a note from that, from a context perspective, in 2013, China banned Bitcoin. It was at 1,022 at the time. Then in 2017, they banned Bitcoin again at 4,106. And then obviously this year we're at 45,000 when they ban it for a third time. So, I think it's something that they can't control, which they hate. And a lot of the people I follow in the space seem to say, this could be the opportunity that the US is looking for from, continuing to lead in that technology space. There's kind of lots of thinking around what happened in 99, 2000, and, the countries that embraced Web 2.0 are really the leaders in the tech space right now, where Europe had the chance to be a leader. They chose to kind of push back and not accept it and embrace it, and so they're way far behind in the US than the US. And so if the US decides to embrace crypto now, they kind of got a leg up here over China, and potentially a lot of parts of the world. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
So, will there eventually be a good time to buy China, like buy Chinese stocks?
It's a good question. We're in a period where their economy is slowing and they're tightening right now. So there probably will be a good time to buy sometime in the next couple of quarters. The Chinese stocks have been under pressure. I think if you had a 10-year view, you could probably buy and piece into them right now, but I still think there's, potentially 20 to 25% downside still. So there'll likely be a chance to buy, especially some of the bigger tech names. But they look a little aggressive and scared right now, so it's not the time yet for me.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. You want to throw off some charts? Are we at that segment yet?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'll spare everybody the Ben's charts jingle this week.
All right, let's see. Okay. Just got to find it. Screen two. Let me know when you see it. I have my thinking face. You see it? Great.
Yeah.
So I did a little mix of one of Keith's slides, a couple of Darius's, and then one for Scott on the fourth slide. So the first one here is Keith's view. He came out with this quarterly update on where and what he thinks happening in Q4. Yeah, I think I've teased the last couple of weeks. Kind of his view is changing a bit. That he thinks we might see a re-acceleration in Q4, and really that's what he's come out and said, is that he expects a bit of a re-acceleration of growth as this Delta variant slows. If you look at the COVID numbers, you're starting to see them roll over in most parts of the world, including the US. So I think his view is there's probably one more gasp with some upside, and that would be, high beta kind of risk. But, I'd say he still thinks we're late cycle, but he thinks we see an acceleration in Q4. My view is a little bit different, but that's kind of what his backdrop is. Why I put this slide up today is it's, the US dollar is very important to how assets trade. And so this is a picture of how the US dollar trades in the different quadrants, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And so, obviously in Q4 and quad 4, you get growth and inflation slowing together. So of course, you would make sense that US dollar does really well in that one. So he thinks we're going into quad 2. Now, if you look at that on the slide, it shows a little bit of downside in the US dollar when you do a back testing historical look. So because he doesn't think we're going into 1 or 3, I'm not super concerned about holding US dollars right now. So it's an important thing to take into context. In this backdrop, he thinks you want to own emerging markets and things like that. Again, this is, I talked to a client today and I said, it feels like you're a cat on the stove here, because it's going to work for a while and you can be safe for a while. But when emerging markets turn, it's very aggressive to the downside. So I think we got to be careful right now. Make sense?
Yeah, all the part except for the cat on the stove. Everything else makes sense.
You got another one? You got another
I'll
analogy?
just let that one slide. I was just gonna let that one roll right by, but it's too much.
Cat on a tin roof, dog on a tin roof, Scott on a tin roof.
I never heard the cat on the stove, but whatever. Maybe you're gonna show us a picture
Okay.
here or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's the last slide. So this is Darius's data. So he interprets everything a little bit different, but one of the things that I think is most important to continue to watch is the US 10-year, the US 10-year yield. So if we look at this demographic, or if we look at this chart, sorry, if we look at the top of the chart, the green bars is when you want to own it, the red bars are when you want to be cautious. And so it's just a visual to see. His view is we're kind of trading in the upper range of yields right now. If you read more into his data, he kind of thinks that on the outside, we could get up to 160. And if we get up to 160 on the US 10-year, his view is that's the top of equity prices as well. So you would sell equities and buy bonds. He actually thinks sometime in the next 6 weeks, we see a pretty significant sell-off. So this is an interesting take on, we're in the 145, 46-ish range on the US 10-year. If we get another 15 basis points higher, stocks have probably gone higher through that backdrop, and you should look at taking that opportunity to sell stocks and buy bonds. Make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. So this, again, I mean, all of this information is very busy as well to look at. But again, similarly, this is his view on Bitcoin. So in his model, he owns Bitcoin and Ethereum right now. But again, similar, red, you don't want to own it. Green, you want to own it. So we're in the green backdrop. And if you look at the bottom section of this chart, he thinks that we're trading in the bottom end of that range, right? That 40,000 to 60,000 is where he thinks it can trade. So if you look at kind of his backdrop, his view is he thinks we could probably accelerate to 60,000 on the back of, risk assets appreciating. That's an opportunity to sell it and take profits, again, buy bonds or go to cash.
Gotcha.
Questions on that?
No.
And the last one, of course, is for you. We get a chance to take a look at Bitcoin monthly returns since 2011. I think it's interesting. I mean, I'm not a big super fan on seasonality, but some people like to look at these statistics. And so as you look at September, August, September, we're just wrapping up that. We're coming to the end. It's the end of September on Thursday next week. Historically, this has been the period you've wanted to have kind of that crypto in the portfolios as you look at how it's cycled. So interesting setup we have here where we're kind of got the backdrop where growth's accelerating again, yields have moved up. We got probably a pretty good period here where crypto and kind of risky assets have the chance to make money. So it's interesting just to see how it's trended over kind of the longer term.
Yeah, for sure.
Makes
Very
sense.
cool. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
We'll save up for November. For October, I mean.
Exactly.
Cool. Okay, no questions yet. If anybody has a question, you know how to do it. So anything else, or how are we lining up for next week?
Yeah, so I think as we get into I guess there's kind of an option expiration on Thursday next week, end of the month. And then we get into October on next Friday. So we'll see how things trade through. Today was kind of messy, not a lot of direction. I'd expect we get more volumes into next week as we wrap up September. It's been not a great month for anything, kind of sideways to down in general. So I'd expect to see how this follows through. Darius has been talking a lot about how the data is changing frequently and rapidly. So we'll be watching it closely, but yeah, I have to think that this is kind of the last gasp of this current run. You want to stay long risk, but you also have to be prepared to get back to get a little more cautious. As I look at which stocks have traded the best here in the past week, kind of look across the top, and it's mostly kind of small caps or stocks that have been beat up. Like QuantumScape was up 30% this week. Overstock was up 12%. So some of these names that have been beaten up have done quite well here, and expect that to continue for the next little while.
Great. Okay, you got anything else, or?
I don't think so. I mean, the new issue market was still pretty healthy this week. A couple of bond issuances, TELUS International, Emira, Dosibo, couple of bond issues. Quebec raised some money today in the bond market, so that's still pretty active and healthy as well.
Gotcha. Well, there's no questions from the audience, but I have one question. What happened to the tree right behind you?
Yeah, you're not allowed to ask that. I had enough clients ask me, say, I killed the tree.
Yeah,
just look at my books.
Yeah.
Just look at my books and I killed the tree. I didn't water the tree. I'm not very, I don't have a green thumb.
I've never noticed that before. Just now. I don't know. Time to get a new plant or something. All right. That's it.
That's it.
That's
Anything
it
interesting for you?
For this week? No.
Yeah.
This weekend? No. Same old, same as you. Just running kids around. You're going to Carver Fair?
Yeah, tonight.
Carver Fair weekend. I think it's supposed to rain. Supposed to rain tonight.
Looks like it, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know if we'll get there or not, but all my kids are going separately. They're at the stage where they don't want to go with mom and dad anymore. So we'll have to if my wife and I we'll just go and look at all the horses and cows and that whole thing. Yeah.
Sounds fun.
What it's known for. Oh yeah, it's great fun. All right. Well, that's it. Thanks everybody, and we'll see you next week.
Take care.